we go. Episode 6 of the Run the Tibby podcast. We are your three hosts. My name is Steven Diaz. Here with me, we have TJ Tibbs, aka To Be or Not to Be. And I got to give credit to Harry on that one. Harry made that one up. We also have Harry Hazen, aka Carl Anthony Towns. And today we are going, we
You
are
get it?
going,
You get it? Cat.
we, do we have a grade? Do we have a letter grade on that?
I think that's a B plus.
That's
Yes, I
an
was gonna
A.
go B plus. I was gonna go B plus.
Damn.
DJ D-Rex
Just 'cause
godson.
Yeah, Carl Anthony
Yeah,
Towns
yeah,
can
yeah.
go over your head. DJ Derek's godson is just
Yeah, you can't miss that one. But today we're here to talk about some spacing and player movement stuff and offense in 2021 and what cutting means and how to be a good cutter. So Tibbs, basically, what do you want to start off with here? Because there's a lot to unpack.
That there's so many ways to approach offense. So many ways to approach offense. It's not one way, right? Especially when you see like in college. You know, you got your Princeton type offenses, you got your spread pick and roll type offenses, you got your motion offenses. You have a mix of all of it, right? You know, there's nothing really new that's going on, but there are philosophies based on how coaches want to score and the type of teams that they have, the personnel. When you look at somebody like Roy Williams in college, it's very clear they're going to run a Carolina break. They're going to have two guys that are big, that are may or may not be able to shoot the three, but they will be able to post up, and they're probably, pretty pretty big in terms of size, probably 6'7" and above. They definitely could play block to block. Like his system of offense has not really changed. I'm sure it has improved, but the core of what it is has not really changed. You know, they're not the most spaced team in 2021, and he hasn't gone away from that. So he's gonna have a point guard that really dictates pace and controls the pace, and he's gonna have big guys that are really around the rim. But what I dislike is when we look at basketball or NBA and we start talking about ball movement and player movement, because I know there's all these stats and stuff about when you move the ball from side to side, one side, two side, your percentage of your shot goes up. Yeah, that's amazing. And in an ideal world, like you're moving the ball with a purpose and the ball is changing sides. But how about when the ball is just moving for no reason? And it's not really getting into the defense. It's just moving horizontally around the perimeter. There are no threats. Or how about offenses or people who don't even look at the rim when they have the ball? So there's a lot of times you watch offensive possessions and different levels of basketball, and there might be 10 to 15 seconds before somebody actually looks at the basket. Um, and as defenses are better and people scheme more, like you can actually scheme towards that, you know? And I don't think there's any one way to play basketball. That's why I think basketball is a beautiful game. You can play different ways during the game. You can play different ways game to game, you know? I love that. That's why I have an affinity in football. I think there's a lot of parallels. There should be more parallels in football to basketball. The New England Patriots, when they were really great with their two tight end system with Hernandez and Gronk, that they would run the ball 50 times one game, and the next game they would throw the ball 55 times. And I think that is the ideal way, whatever the equivalent is in basketball. The ideal way is to be multiple, to embrace analytics. I'm saying a lot, to embrace analytics as a tool, but to not be rude by it. Especially in NBA playoff basketball when buckets are hard to come by. It's a lot different. I think analytics are great for a large sample size situations. They're amazing. But oh no, what happened?
you said analytics. And
Did
we
I
both
really?
laughed.
Anyway, anyway, I think analytics are great for a large scale data, for a lot of things. I actually am a believer that the first 30 minutes of the game, give or take, in a 40-minute college basketball game should be analytically based basketball when you can. Trying to get the highest efficient shot, the most efficient shot at all times, no matter what, for the first 30 minutes of the game. And then I think for the last quarter, the last 10 minutes, it really, the game slows down and you should really be trying to find a way of, okay, possessions are slowing down. There's going to be less possessions. How do I just get a basket? Because baskets are now hard to come by. And that's what happens in playoffs at all levels. Games just slow down. Refs don't call as much. So all those things, I dislike when I hear they don't move enough. The ball's not moving enough. Sometimes the ball doesn't have to move. What is the purpose of offensive basketball? I know what I think it is, but would love to hear your guys' thoughts about all that.
Harry, you got a take? I got a take.
Yeah, you go. You have.
I think analytics answers some questions. I don't think it answers all questions. I think that as a team, your philosophy should be to get the best shot every time down the floor. But for certain teams, that means different things when compared to other teams, right? Like, obviously, the Rockets saw that maybe we shouldn't be running the chin offense, Princeton offense, with James Harden as this dynamic ball handler. Maybe we should give him the ball and let him do what he does. And maybe we'll get some pretty good shots out of that. And another thing that we wanted to touch on was cutting. And when we're taught cutting, it's three people on the perimeter. You pass to one side, you cut through, and you fill to the other wing. The opposite wing replaces you up top. But what is purposeful cutting? Like, I think one thing I didn't learn until high school is that cutting does less for me and more for everyone else than it does anything. Cutting is not for me per se. So one thing that I think a lot of kids need to learn about spacing is that sometimes occupying space is the best thing that you can do in that scenario.
Well, I think one thing that it's almost like counterproductive to the concept that you're saying is like, oh, cutting is for spacing purposes and it's for the offense to have like a fluidity and it's not really about you. But then literally everything you've ever heard from a coach is look for the ball when you're cutting. It's just like in almost in the majority of those situations, like it would be a terrible pass to throw you the ball on some of these cuts, but you're just expected. And to be honest, what it ends up turning into, I don't know, we just spoke about this. What it ends up turning into is if I pass you the ball on the wing and I face cut, I'm just going to run at like 80% speed and I'm going to do this. And this is going to be me.
But it's funny, right?
I want the ball.
Exactly. When it's going to be impossible for you to score with the ball. But I think coaches are saying it, but players aren't really understanding it. And I don't think coaches are really even understanding what they're saying. Well, so like a lot of time you'll hear a lot of coaches say, sell the cut. And that is really all that you should be doing when you're cutting. Sell it. Just sell it. Occupy eyes, occupy space, But instead the player thinks, I need to sell the cut, lose the defender, and score. And instead, you're just wasting time trying to get yourself a bucket when, in the meantime, all you need to do is occupy space.
Well, yeah, that's why I think there's such like a big disconnect and why cutting or like cutting to score is like it turns into like a white noise because I'm expected to look to score when I cut, but my teammate never throws me the ball. So I don't really care about this offense anymore, coach. When do I get the ball to do something fun?
Here, Tibbs, answer this. When should you cut? Why should you cut?
Depends on what offense you're in. If you're running a Princeton offense, you should be cutting all the time at 100%, right? You should be cutting all the time. Not literally all the time, but, cutting is a huge part of the offense. I think a lot of what doesn't get taught or what we as coaches don't do a great enough job of as a whole is that, especially when you're occupying weak side space, why you should cut. Like a lot of people say, cut the open space and, when you see like just an open gym or something with a coach there, guys are like, like you said, pass and cut, or cut, you got to cut, pass, you got to cut, you got to move. Yeah, but why are you moving? Because there is reason why you should stand still a lot of the times. Like, just stay right there. And I think a lot of cutting should be, what is your defender doing? And in a broader scale, what is the defense doing, right? So if your defender is now going to help, and now the other defender is coming to help the helper on the weak side, maybe you shouldn't cut. Maybe you should move. But maybe the guy whose man is the guy helping the helper, right? I don't know if I lost anybody, but maybe the other guy on the side should be the one who's cutting. Maybe when your man is ball watching, so that's when you cut. It's not, okay, you have that space and you can cut at any time. But when that guy loses track of where you are, then you cut. If you can cut to the basket and the person with the ball has a clear line to throw you the basketball, right? Or maybe your cut brings in another defender that now allows somebody else to move and allows them to be open. But I think when defenders lose vision of you and you have space to cut, that you should cut a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time, especially when you're in a position where you should be standing still. If all that makes sense.
Okay, Michael Porter Jr., Campazzo, and whoever else it was on the wing. Should one of them had cut?
Yeah, the one who shot the ball should have been the first one cutting, since he's the first shooter out of the three of them. They should have all. And let's talk about that. And we kind of talked about this. Like, obviously, that play has gotten a lot of run on social media, right? Like, three guys, if anybody doesn't know, was watching the Wizards were playing Denver Nuggets at Denver. The Wizards miss a shot, late game scenario. There's like 7-8 seconds left, whatever. Jamal Murray races the ball down the left side of the court. It's literally a 4-on-1 for at least a moment. Bradley Beal's the one back, and Murray stops on the left side wing. And what it seems like for everybody at home, that all three of the defenders who now are spotting up for a three-pointer with like 4 seconds left, none of them cut to the basket. And it seems like, and I say seems like because I don't have Jamal Murray's angle. It seems like all Jamal Murray had to do was just throw it over the head of Bradley Beal and somebody was going to have a layup. But I have seen so many takes that have had so many levels about that play that has put analytics into a bad light. But why do you think that play happened? And why do you think none of them cut at all to the basket?
It had to be discussed that we're getting a three. We're trying to win the game. They were down 2.
I think you're giving them the benefit of the doubt.
It had or it was a terrible play. Just a brain fart of a play on all of their parts.
I have a theory, but Harry, you got something?
Bro, I just think it's like this year's like stupidest play so far. Like, that is Shaq and a Fool #1 on all of them. Just because, like, yo, none of you like thought about just tying the game, not for free. There's nobody back. Zero.
For free.
Yeah, like I don't know. I
have a theory.
Go ahead.
My theory is that, and the Nuggets are one of these teams, but it's just NBA basketball now, that it's so drilled in their heads to space and run to the three-point line that in a pressurized situation, mind you, a lot of these scramble situations don't happen in the NBA. NBA is known at the end of quarters for guys who are shooting the ball after the buzzer because of their field goal percentage, right? So you don't have these scramble situations a lot. Also, most of the time at the end in these situations, you rebound the ball, you call timeout, you advance it, you run a play, right? So these plays rarely happen. Like, NBA players don't have this happen too often anymore at all. The game has to be close, and then you have to not have a timeout. And on top of that, you have to be playing not to foul in a differential situation. So that was the perfect storm of something. They might not ever be in that situation for the rest of the year. Like, that's how infrequent that situation is, right? So in a scramble situation, what happened? You don't rise to the level of whatever's going on, whatever that rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your preparation, right? And your level of preparation is that time after time after time after time after time on a situation like that, you run to the 3-point line. None of those guys are rim runners. None of those guys are cutters. They're all perimeter-based basketball players. Campazzo is a creator. So he's not a finisher. He's not running to the rim. That's not in their DNA. So even though we could look at it as maybe casuals at the time and say, how did they not run to the rim? And I'm certainly one of those guys. I think habit took over. And also, we seen J.R. Smith in game 1 of the NBA Finals totally forget the score. Maybe they thought they needed a 3.
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe they thought that, or they didn't know how much time was on the clock.
I think all of those factors are in play. I think everything, especially because that scenario doesn't happen a lot. It's not like in college where you practice maybe late game scrambles or whatever because you got to be prepared. You can't advance the ball. Like, you think the NBA teams are practicing that? Like, they're not. The last time they probably did that was in college. Mm-hmm. So, like, I just don't think they're in the habit. And that was just, you know, it was kind of like the ball like squirted out to like the nail. So, like, it just happened so quickly. They missed the bunny. The Wizards actually missed the shot that should have went in. So I think all that had to do with it. But I think, Steve, to your point, I mean, Michael Porter Jr.'s reaction, which was clear, he was very frustrated with either Campazzo shooting it, the fact that other guys are on the 3-point line, the fact that he didn't get the ball. He was very frustrated about something. So, and the thing about analytics, and I've seen a lot of these takes because obviously analytics was being brought up about this, and I think that was unfair. But people were on social media defending analytics and the fact that based on winning probability, and this is what blows my mind, based on winning probability, that the correct play there, if given an open 3-pointer, was to take the 3-pointer. Because you still make the 2 and go into overtime, and your win probability is whatever, 50%, like in theory, right? But taking the 3, you lose X amount of times and you win X amount of time from a shooter that shoots that. So, like, there was actually math that said you should take the 3 if you're trying to win the game. If you're trying to extend the game and give yourself a chance to win, you take the 2. How do you guys feel about that analytically? Because analytics has a huge, you know, part to do with offense.
Well, I was about to say, if he made it, are we even having this conversation?
I think so.
Like, is the narrative now like genius basketball that we're playing in 2021?
Yeah, is that the breakthrough? Is Campazzo making the shot the breakthrough moment for analytics in basketball?
And that joint wasn't even close, Pop. Like,
yeah,
that was not even close, man. That was the craziest part.
Tibbs, I wanted to ask you. You talked about 30 minutes and then the last 10 minutes just playing off feel. First 30 minutes should be based off analytics or whatever the philosophy was. Seeing this play, would you draw running play based on analytics?
Yes. But what's I got to do with this play? Yes, I would absolutely draw up a game-winning play.
Like, let's say you got a chance. You as a coach got a chance to control what was happening.
That scenario.
Yeah.
Are you saying take
not that? Not
okay.
that scenario, but time and score, and
yes,
like, so there was a timeout before the Nuggets came down the court.
Yeah. I think yes. I think that needs to be considered, but I think that's where you have to balance. Like, I'm a fan of analytics. I'm learning more and more about it, and I'm a fan of analytics. But I am not, me personally, I am not totally controlled by it. There's still a feel aspect of the game. Who's hot? What's going on? Who am I coaching against? Coach Buck was on there, and he was talking about that. We were talking about who to foul. I mean, fouling up 3 and all that, right? I have a clear philosophy, and every time philosophy that my team knows. He's more of a let's see. I just want to take out the confusion and just know, because it's a hard thing to execute. So I want to be, we're one way and we're one way only. That's my philosophy. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just how I am. But yes, I would severely draw up. How about this scenario with analytics? You're trying to figure out who to foul, right? End the game. You're losing. You got to foul somebody. There are 4 90% free throw shooters out there. Let's just use 2 90% free throw shooters out there, okay? before the game because a lot of these decisions are made before the game. One is 9 for 10 for the year, right? The other one is 90 for 100 for the year, okay? But the 90 for 100 guy is 2 for 5 in the game. Now, there's all that information. That's imperfect information. I just made it off the fly. That's imperfect information. Does any of that have an effect on who you foul in an ideal situation? So you're in the 30th game of the year. The 90% free throw shooter, one is 9 for 10. So obviously, he does not go to the line that often, okay? The other one goes to the line all the time. But in this game, he's 2 for 5. The other one hasn't taken any free throws. Who are you fouling?
Okay, I think because it is so there are too many hairs to sift through to decide that you just got to go off something else.
Just foul.
Okay, no, but it's you got to make and
I have to pick one.
Yeah, well, I'm saying for the point of exercise, like these are. But look, this is the difference between moving from.
What about the other three?
Hold on.
And it depends. Like, is the guy who's 2 for 5 like quick as anything? Like, is he going to be able to get the ball on the inbound?
So
like,
that's what I'm saying.
More likely to get the ball on the inbound.
But that's what I'm saying about analytics in general. Like, there are so many fluid decisions that have to be made all the time in basketball games that aren't just there. You try to take away the decisions as much as you can before the game, right? So we go into the game and we know like these are the top 4 people we want to foul. But what if the kid is shooting 64%? He's the worst free throw shooter on the team, shooting 64%, and he's 10 for 10 from the line. Coming into the game, we plan on fouling him. He's 10 for 10. Does that change your mind on who to foul and why? That analytically, the answer is no. It doesn't change it because he's still the worst free throw shooter on the team. Analytically, that's what analytics would tell you, right? Feel would tell you, or most people, yo, he's 10 for 10. Let's have somebody else beat us with a shot. Let's ideally foul somebody who's maybe a 70% free throw shooter and hasn't taken one yet. Maybe he's cold, right? A theory, like foul that guy. But I think that stuff is, there's a lot of things that go into those decisions. And I think what analytics doesn't account for is the feel aspect. So it's an amazing tool to use. When you can, if you shoot the same percentage from mid-range too, like a step in front of three-point line as you do from 3, why would you ever shoot that shot? You know what I mean? Because that shot is worth more points. So if you're just as efficient at shooting that shot as you are, why would you ever shoot the one that's worth less points? All things being equal, it being open or whatever shot clock, right? Why would you ever shoot that? And I think that's how offense is built. Now, I don't like how the Rockets and the Bucks are 2 teams that severely are on the end of the spectrum that allows them to maximize their wins in regular season situations because the games are different. So their style of basketball allows them to, no matter what, we're going for the maximum amount of points that we can get in the game. And either we're going to get close to that and we're going to beat you because we're going to win the points per – if you win the points per possession battle, you have an 87% chance of winning. That's a true stat. 87% chance. If you win the points per possession battle by 0.05, you have now increased your chances to, I believe, 95 to 97% of winning. So the whole point of the game, besides is to win the points per possession battle. You're more times than not going to win the game. So why wouldn't you do everything in your power to try to manipulate that? So if I can force you to take all 2s the whole entire game, no free throws, no 3s, and I take all 3s, in theory, I have a chance of blowing you out. In theory. I also have a chance of getting blown out, right? Yeah. Because I'm taking more difficult shots. But that's, not to get too nerdy, but I think the analytics stuff is an awesome thing to talk about when you talk about building offense.
One thing that we wanted to talk about, and Tibbs, I wanted you to give an explanation on this because I still don't really understand it. You talked about vertical offense versus horizontal offense. So could you just give an explanation on that?
Yeah, and I'm not an expert on it, but when you're building offense and based on your personnel and what you want to do, it's how are you attacking the defense, right? How are you trying to manipulate the defense to get baskets? So if you look at like let's use a popular team like the New Jersey Nets, especially when they don't have
The New York Nets.
they're the New Jersey Nets forever.
I didn't even catch that you just said that. That's like...
So anyway, so you have three of the best, maybe the best isolation basketball players.
Maybe
a
ever.
lot of maybe ever. A lot of their offense doesn't come from a roll man because they get a lot of switching and stuff. A roll man diving into the paint and them getting into the paint and spraying the ball out. Like a lot of it is them creating an advantage, somebody plugging a gap and now swinging the ball horizontally. Somebody driving, right? They're not necessarily getting into the paint.
Oh, it's like relative to the defense.
Correct. Like how are you literally?
I understand.
Yeah. Like how are you literally attacking, right? So a vertical offense would be, a spread pick and roll where the whole entire point is to suck the defense in based on, the roll man having gravity and getting into the paint and now throwing the ball back out is like how you're attacking. So like the Utah Jazz doing a lot of driving, dragging, reversing the ball now, ping, they're throwing the ball around horizontally, right? Of course, eventually they can drive into the paint, but a lot of it is based on them throwing the ball around the perimeter and not necessarily diving into the teeth of the defense.
What would you say the Miami Heat offense last year was? Because it was a lot of like Bam dribbling into.
I would say horizontal because there wasn't
right.
There wasn't right. Who was their gravity roll man? And yeah, it's Bam, but Bam is short rolling. Bam is, they're running a lot of 5-out stuff. They're doing a lot. I would say it's very horizontal. It's very perimeter based. How can we dribble handoff, right? Now you get two guys coming to Duncan Robinson. He's getting to the short roll and he's kicking it out. Like they're not based on getting the ball into the paint necessarily. They're playing off their perimeter prowess of shooting the three ball. Everybody shoots the three, but they're playing off the fact that they're going to stretch the defense horizontally and drag the defense and pin downs and all that stuff. And that's a horizontal offense.
I feel like all of that is almost entirely dependent on I feel like you said this, like who your personnel are. Like, I don't think if I just said, all right, I want to get into coaching and I end up with like a 13U AAU team of just like a bunch of regular kids, I don't think I could just look at like Miami Heat offense and be like, yeah, I want to run that. Like you can't. Or I want to run like what the Nets run because you just can't. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like all of that like ball movement.
Maybe you could run with the Nets one.
I mean, yeah, you good luck. But I feel like almost everything in the NBA at least is hard to replicate because you need at least one person who can just make something happen every play.
But they're definitely
at minimum it's just like a drive and kick.
But okay, so I was literally watching the Nets game play the Spurs tonight, and most of what they did was like it was philosophy based for majority of the game, where it's like, okay, who's the worst defender on the floor? Who's that white dude on the Spurs?
It's usually the white dudes.
Kleber is Kleber. He's not on the Spurs.
I haven't watched the Spurs game.
Big ass white dude on the Spurs. Who's he guarding? Okay, whoever he is, let's give Kyrie the ball, and they're gonna set a screen and roll, and we'll just play off that.
Yeah,
that was most of the offense. So like those philosophies could transfer over,
But, I mean, I will say to the original like antithesis of the pod, like, yeah, I went there.
But antithesize your ass somewhere else.
Shit. Anyway, we're sitting here trying to figure out what is good offense, and like I think that's brilliant offense, but there's no passing and cutting involved in that. It's just let's get the advantage now and just play basketball. You know, I don't think Lois Cabral, or however you say his name, doing
TLC.
him. I don't think
Timothy Lualu Cabarro.
I don't think him doing a V cut and then backdooring at any point in that offense is something that they care to see. Kyrie would probably just look at him and be like, "Yo, can you just go stand in the corner, please?"
Yes. Yeah.
So
So
have we talked about that on this pod yet?
No.
Just
If
the importance of standing.
well, kind of.
Moving.
I had said something about it, but to the point of standing, the far end of the spectrum of just standing there, the Houston Rockets with James Harden, right? Without Clint Capella. So when they went with PJ at the 5, right? PJ Tucker at the 5. It was that, or was that not? Was it a failure? That type of offense with James Harden just isoing and guys not moving. There's no ball movement except for one more, drive, kick out, one more shot, one more, maybe two more. But, very, 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 very horizontal offense without Clint Capella. So was that or was that not a failure? Because so many pundits will say this is not basketball. He's a ball hawk, all this stuff, right? And I'm glad that he's on the Nets because he's shown that he can play more traditionally, and he's a very, very good player. Like I've said on Twitter, like James Harden is underrated. Like I'm so glad I'm a Knicks fan, but I'm so glad that I can watch James Harden play every single game because watching the game live is way different from watching the film and clips of it, and just the feel that he has and how he throws people open, like how he never gets sped up. I can go on and on about his creator ability, and I want to talk about non-creators after this. But is that experiment, was that bad offense?
It was arguably the best offense. It just unfortunately the reality of it. I don't think anyone can make the claim that they weren't a championship team because of their offense. It's because they couldn't rebound the basketball because they're playing PJ Tucker at the 5. But at the end of the day, if you're what got you to the Western Conference Finals more than once, if I'm not correct, was your offense. Was this like super dynamic, we can generate an open shot with James Harden just doing what he does. Yeah, it's hard to replicate if that's what, the barometer for good offense is. Yeah, you can't really replicate that. It's hard for me to go coach anybody and say, all right, we're just going to let this one guy ISO and let's have everyone spread out, because it's also predicated on the other 4 people being able to shoot really well. Mm-hmm. But it clearly the blueprint of like, hey, if you have this personnel available, it worked. They just couldn't guard anybody. Yo, the offense worked.
Imagine being like a youth coach and trying to have that conversation with the parents of the kids. Like, yo, we got this best player. We got our best player on the team. We're going to let him do a bunch of stuff. The rest of your kids are just going to be standing there. If they catch the ball, they're going to shoot it or pass it. And that's that.
But man, we're going to be dynamic.
We're going to be really good though.
We're going to be really, really efficient. And I think that's what it comes to, like, and I've thought about this a lot because I think narrative and situations, like when you think about recruiting or when you think about evaluation, people's situations have a lot to do with how you're trying to project them, right? And a lot of guys, there's not that many creators in the league. And mostly everybody is a secondary player So what is the most important thing in offense when you're looking at somebody who's not going to be an on-ball creator all the time? And to me, it's one thing that's never going to change about basketball. It's closeouts are always going to happen in basketball, whether you're in zone, whether you're in man, right? So attacking closeout creation, to me is like the number one thing that is great about secondary players. Being able to shoot the ball, yes. But even more important than that, because I think I'd rather have you be a solid shooter from 3 than an elite shooter if you're a solid shooter and you have great closeout creation capabilities. Because I think it's the number one important skill for non-creators, number one. And when I say closeout creation, I mean the ability to recognize and how hard somebody's closing out to you, where their weight is, and where they should be attacked, and then being able to make a decision off of that drive, not just dribbling past them, because people get ran off the line all the time because they can't make decisions that well when they're dribbling into the paint. Either they can't finish or they're not great passers or both, right? For guys who just stand there and shoot. But that the whole point of offense, I don't care how you get there, the whole point of offense is to create an advantage so you can create a closeout. Whether you're creating an open shot or you're creating an opportunity for a lesser talented creator to have basically a binary read initially. And the more binary reads you can create for non-creators, the better off your offense will be.
I like that. At the end of myself.
That just makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, but personally, I think that I guess we see like creation or what deems somebody a creator. I guess we define that differently, because I think that attacking a closeout and or making an advantage pass or making a one more is creating offense for your team. So, but I understand that, like, Bruce Brown swinging the ball is a different level of creation than like James Harden
Throwing it between the legs.
literally existing on the basketball court. Like, his gravity is just going to cause.
So you said our definition of creators are different?
Yeah, like
He's saying that secondary guy can still potentially be a valuable creator if he can attack a closeout and pass the ball to the right person.
Yeah. Well, I really mean on-ball creators. So on-ball creators, like the James Hardens,
people who create something from nothing. I guess that is a creator.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's creating.
It's the definition of create.
I think there's creators, I guess on-ball creators, and then closeout creators, because everybody in the game of basketball is going to be closed out to, whether it's a small advantage or a big advantage. They're going to be closed out to, but what can they do off of driving that closeout? Can they even properly drive the closeout? Because some people really just can't. They just know where the space is and try to get there, but they don't know exactly how to do that and hold an advantage or to make that advantage even bigger. I think that's a huge skill. And a lot of guys, and a lot of reasons why kids struggle when they go from high school to college is because they're some sort of on-ball creator, because they're the best player or the best athlete in the team. And now, especially in the early part of their careers, they have a lot more secondary creation or closeout creation, and they haven't had a lot of that, So
I have a question. Do you think that sometimes analytics kind of make those decisions difficult when it comes to creating against closeouts?
What do you mean?
So, like, as a kid, right? Or if you're a coach and you preach analytics, you're preaching 3 is more than 2. We should be trying to get to 3 X amount of times during a half or a game or whatever the case may be. Now, that obviously is going to live in a kid's brain because he wants to shoot threes and he wants to listen to you and he wants to be on the court. Do you think that sometimes that'll make a kid shoot a 3 when he isn't supposed to against a closeout, or like how do you balance that?
Yeah, I think, and we kind of experimented a little bit last year with it as I started to embrace it a little bit more. Because Christian Taylor didn't play last year, but him and Adeola Tunji are 2 guys who take a lot of mid-range jump shots, but they're also 2 guys who are really, really efficient at it. But also at the other end of it, Adeola was a guy who took a lot of long 2s. So he would shoot a lot of 2s a foot or a foot and a half or 2 feet in front of the 3-point line. And then showing him those shots and then showing him, hey, Addy, you're a good 3-point shooter. A lot of these shots can be 3s, right? And you're going to shoot it at the same efficiency that you're going to shoot it pretty much that shot, but you're going to create more points at it. And you don't even have to be as efficient, right? the good thing about guys like Adiola and Christian Taylor is that late shot clock creation, we just need a basket and they can score from anywhere on the floor, which is dope. But I think if you're not, you can't just tell the people, you need to show them, because kids will end up passing up the mid-range shot because they think it's a bad shot. But in reality, getting to a spot or shooting an open mid-range shot, especially from somebody who works on that, is better or as good as a contested three, depending on who you are. For some guys, a contested three is better than them shooting a two. So you should only continue on to the basket. You should never pull up for two unless it's a late clock situation. And you should draw defense so somebody else can possibly get an uncontested three, right? Because you're trying to, every offense, every single time down, I would take a layup every single time down, a wide open layup, every single time down over any shot, a wide open layup every single time down. Basketball is an equal opportunity game. If I get 60 possessions, you're either getting 60 or you're getting 61 or you're getting 59. It's an equal opportunity game. So if you told me I can get a free layup for every 60 possessions, I will live with that and whatever you're going to get on the other end. You know what I mean? But besides the free throw line after that, the next thing is you get a wide open three from a good shooter. So there are ways you can manipulate to get that shot. You can throw it around the perimeter horizontally and try to get an open three. A lot of times, because the closeouts are going to be shorter, they're going to be contested, right? So you're going to get a three up, but it might not be as inefficient of a three because it's not as open. Or you can vertically attack the defense to get into the teeth, bring in rotations, and try to make a pass or one more to get an open three. And considering that everybody, let's just say, is a good shooter on a team, is going to be an open three from a good shooter. So that's the next best thing you want to get from a layup. And, all these other things that come with it. So I forget what the original point was about everything. I went on a tangent, but
Harry, you got you got something for that?
Yeah, that was good shit, son.
Do we have how much time we got left? We got time to take it somewhere?
I think
we got
I think we
got
can
about
talk.
five or so, 5 to 10. Yeah.
We got 5 to 10. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we had to be or not to be on this pod. Now I will pose the question: to think or not to think. So me and Harry were having a discussion, and we were basically saying, do you think about the moves that you do, or you think about the moves that you're going to do, or do you just react to the defense? So Harry, lay your cards on the table for the people.
So I, in my opinion, and this is just how I play basketball, I'm not the greatest basketball player, but I feel like you have to at least be thinking about what your first thing is. So you should be thinking about that. If you are just walking up to a defender, let's say you're at the volleyball line and they're waiting for you at the three-point line, you're just walking up to this guy like, I'll figure it out when I get there. Like, that's probably not a good idea. That's probably not a good idea. So you should at least have a plan of attack, of how you're going to do this, which is why I think up until this point, and I still do, as far as training goes, like, you should build a move that you're good at, that you can say, all right, this is going to be my primary way of beating somebody off the dribble. Now, I know me and Tibbs are going to disagree, where after that, you are either, I guess the conversation goes to, after that, you are either reacting to what the defense does, or you're not. It's like a conscious decision you're making. I personally think that everything that you do, and I would love to like have that conversation with someone who's like an ultimate creator wherever they are in the basketball world, because I feel like those are the guys that are really consciously or unconsciously like processing those decisions or not decisions. I know that sentence was like all over the place, but I think just for me personally, it was always, did move A work? Do I have the shot I want? If I don't, I know what in certain spots my like B move is. So like for me, if you've ever seen me play, I'm probably just going to the basket or
I'm gonna back
head
you
fake.
down, back
Yeah,
to the basket.
I'm trying to shoot a three, and if I don't feel like I want that three, I am taking 2 dribbles, posting up, and I know 100% of the time I can either shoot a fadeaway or I can head fake and get a layup every single time. Does the post fade go in? That's up to me. But I feel like at any point, those are 2 shots that I can think about and say, all right, this is gonna get me a shot. And again, I would love to find out if there's an interview somewhere that someone's listening to this and they can link it to us. That'd be awesome. I would love to find out, is James Harden going down the court and having that same conversation in his head, like, yo, if I can get this step back, like I'm gonna shoot it, and like that's it. Because I feel like James Harden's a guy where if he gets to his step back, if he really wanted to, he can shoot the ball, it'll go in, he'll draw a foul, or at least will be a shot attempt. Like he rarely gets blocked on that. You know what I mean? So that, I don't know. That's just how I kind of feel about it.
I think, all right, so in the scenario that you're presenting, it's like volleyball line to, top of the
You're
key.
approaching a defender.
One-on-one, approaching a defender, dribbling the ball. Like the first thing that I want to get to is to shoot a three. So like if I can dribble the ball up and shoot a three, like I have enough space to shoot a three, I'm going to do that. And if I can't do that, I'm going to skip and hang and hope that I can shoot a three after that. And whatever happens after that is just a reaction to what the defense gives me. I feel like it should just be like an absolute assault on the top foot. Like just going at whatever foot is in front, getting them to drop that and get space for me to shoot.
But my question to you is, let's say you're doing the hang for however long it takes, and you get me to drop my top foot to the point where you're like, all right, I'm gonna attack in a direction. Now, we all know, and anyone listening knows, you are not an aficionado when it comes to finishing when it comes to finishing at the rim. But are you? Yeah. Are you saying that literally if you are in a situation where you have to drive to the basket, you have no idea what's going to happen when you get there? Like it's all just reaction?
Me?
You have nothing. Yeah,
Me.
I'm asking you personally.
No idea what's happening. No idea. We're just going. We're just along for the ride,
We're here now.
We're here now. That's it. I mean,
all right. Tibbs.
I don't have the ability to like control that defender as we're going to the basket. Like obviously you're more comfortable doing that. And if you don't have them beat, then you could just turn around and shoot a fadeaway.
So posting up is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Now, for me, it's the first move is it's almost always off some sort of hang, and like the first move is definitely thought about. But I think a lot of it has to do with spatial awareness and how good your spatial awareness is. Because if you have the tools to be able to shoot well enough and drive well enough to take advantage of the defense's positioning, then that can at least get you to your first move. So if you hang, dribble, or skip, like Steve is saying, and you are aware that this person is close enough to get blown by, because it's really like a matter of inches, right? Like of like and where their body is, and if they're on their heels, and and all this other stuff. So if you can feel that as you're playing, especially off a hang, and I think Kyrie is the best in the NBA, and that's why he counters so well. That before he even gets contact with somebody's body, he just sees space. He's just aware of everywhere everybody is, and he's able to just, obviously his handle is amazing, so he's able to just get into that space. A lot of humans would have to, I drove here, I got stopped, and at some sort of level, now I'm making my counter because my body touched their body. But Kyrie has elite spatial awareness and literally just sees a little crevice or right before he's about to hit somebody's body to where he has to counter, he makes that counter. So he gets that little half-second advantage. And I think that stuff is elite when it comes to evaluation and looking at guys and seeing how they make decisions and how aware they are when people are closing out to them. So for me, it's just how close they are. My first move is playing, and then my counter is probably one or two things depending on which side I'm going to and where I am on the court.
And that's on knowing yourself.
Well said from the best player out of the three of us.
Yeah.
Arguably. I just went to the best school out of all of us. So that is not arguably. So, the College of Staten Island is just.
I'm not, bro.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm perfectly okay with that.
No one's arguing. Yeah, no one's arguing with you on that one.
You got no debate from me. I
awesome.
always wanted to be a part of the warm up where you change shirts 7 times and take jump stop layups
and not give the other team.
I'm not even being a little sarcastic. I always thought it was the coolest thing ever. Wait, hold on. But I know this has nothing to do with anything. Have you kept that? Like, do you still do that? At CSI? The same warm up?
No.
The thing where you change warm ups?
No, that's Tony's thing, and I love that. And Tony's a saint, man. Tony carries the warm ups. Yeah. Like he refuses to have anybody else do it. You take off the warm ups, you throw them all in a spot. He picks them up and he carries them to the bench. Tony Petoza, legend, head coach. He does that. And I'm not beyond doing that, but it's also like, why are you doing that? Like, the guys could just leave that in the locker room, especially at places, like Brooklyn College, you play an away game. The locker room is relatively close to the court. Yeah. But at CCNY, that joint is across campus.
You go through a labyrinth just to get.
Just have the guys leave it in the locker room or put it on the bench. You know what I mean? So, nah, man. Tony had his thing, man. He will swear he's not superstitious, but he is very routine driven. So I don't know when he started doing that. I don't know why. I used to always ask him, like, Coach, this is the dumbest thing. Why are you carrying our sweaty stuff? You just see this 6'5", 6'6" guy just holding all of these warm-ups. He's the GOAT, bro.
He's amazing. I remember asking him about why they didn't shake hands with the other team in the pregame warm-ups, and he said they'll shake hands after the game.
Yeah. Yes, the funniest thing. I used to coach at Baruch, and we had our assistant Jimmy. Shout out to Jimmy. And every time we play CSI, Jimmy would be the guy waiting for the hand, and I'd be like, Jimmy, they're not coming. Jimmy would take, like, every time the first 3 guys would go and never come over, and Jimmy, after the 3rd guy, he's waiting, and he come over. Okay, they want to do that? Like, one of those? Like, no, Jimmy, It's not personal. They're not coming.
Yeah, I don't think anyone realized that it wasn't personal. Like, every year every time we played CSI, like, one of the assistant coaches would come back to the bench and be like, they're not sending their players to shake our hands.
Yeah. Like, no, there's just – I don't think honestly, I haven't coached the game in so long, but I don't think I send my kids over anymore because there was, like, an edict from the referees that they are not supposed to shake hands or do fist bumps before the game. You know, our kids run over to them and give them a fist bump, and, like, they're not supposed to do that. They're not. So they awkwardly, I guess, and not really awkwardly, but they awkwardly, you'll see some refs, they'll, like, take off their thing during the starting line and turn their back so that kids don't come over to them because they're really not supposed to do that. But who cares, right? So there was, like, this memo that went out either last year or 2 years ago that was like, tell your guys to stop shaking the refs' hands. And it's just like this is what we're really worried about, like the guys showing respect to the referees before the game. But if that's the rule and they're not allowed to do it, they're not allowed to do it. So we don't send I think we'll stop sending kids over to whatever. And it's kind of like a gift and a curse, right? You don't want the other coaching staff and the other team to think that you're being jerks, but also, like, why do we do that? Like, why? So I don't know. It's much to do about nothing.
I don't care about this assistant coach that I'm about to shake their hand before the game.
Yeah, it was until I was an assistant at CSI under Coach Petosa where I realized, oh, this is just like a thing that he does, and this is nothing to be offended by. But yeah, I think we should wrap it up on that.
Perfect way to end.
But we got some basketball theory stuff, some to think or not to think, and we got some dolphin pod stuff. So fear the fin. That's that. That's a wrap. About to order this pizza. Finna call you back. Peace.